I'm your evening host. And the management, I am at the management trainee at Adore. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick glimpse into Adore. So Adore is a global networking platform for students and young professionals like yourselves, all passionate about inspiring youth to make a positive impact. We connect you with established professionals and offer a platform to learn from their journeys. Now, on behalf of Team Maverick and Adore, we are thrilled to welcome you to this webinar on personal finance. To make the session more engaging, we kindly request everyone to switch on their cameras for present here. And now the moment we all have been waiting for. Our esteemed guest speaker for tonight is Mr. Witness Mustani. Witness Mustani is the CEO and Managing Director of finance company. He is great. He is an expert in finance and management and also in strategic planning, developing and training consultant, and also he's a developing and training consultant. So, Mr. Witness Mustani, it is an honor having you here today. We are all eager to gain valuable insights from your expertise. So, Witness Mustani, the floor is all yours. You can start your presentation.
Thank you. So just confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, no, that's okay. Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank everyone who is here present, joined for this webinar. And I can assure you that by the end of the webinar, all of us will be in a position to be good money managers. All right, so just a brief background to myself. My name is Witness Mutaniso, as we have all heard, and I'm in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. So Zimbabwe at the moment is 6 minutes before 4. I'm not so sure what time it is wherever you are. So today I'm going to be your host, and thank you once again for joining to this special webinar on personal finances, especially financial literacy to young people. So just a brief background. Witness Mutaniso is an accounting professional who has acquired quite a number of accounting qualifications. And over the past 20 years, I've worked in various managerial roles in top Zimbabwean companies. So I can say I have so much experience in finance and investments, and I have also significantly contributed to the growth of many large companies here in Zimbabwe, and also seeing the birth and growth of my own company from just a little idea to a company that has given employment to more than 18 people to date. And I can also add that I've been chosen to be part of Zimbabwe Youth Influencers, which is a national organization that recognizes potential youth influencers. And I'm in the events planning and organization, which is an arm that prioritizes special national events and supporting the poor and the vulnerable. So growing up in Zimbabwe, especially in the 90s, it taught me very valuable lessons. I grew up in the low-veld parts of Zimbabwe. It was in the sugarcane farms. And as you may want to know, life was not easy. My father was a full-time employee there, and life was all based on a monthly salary, which had to be shared equally on school fees, everyday living expenses, transport, and so forth. But I would like to highlight that as we were kids growing up, of course, we were not involved in planning on how the money was to be used. But life seemed to move very well because our parents would make sure that we had everything that we needed. So they are the heroes of good money management. Now, fast forward to 2024, where we are now, I'm presenting a topic of something that we were not part of 40 years ago, but something that I have acquired knowledge on. Now, let's go straight into our topic. If we may have slide number 3, the role of personal finance. So we're going to start with the definition. What is personal finance? So basically, personal finance is the management of the monetary resources of an individual or a company. So this means planning to budget, planning to save, planning to invest and spend these resources over time. And at the same time, we want to take into consideration life events, future life events, and also the risks that may be involved in making those decisions. If you notice at the bottom of that slide, I mentioned there that success in achieving financial success is primarily dependent on how these decisions are made. So, in other words, a person has got money, but we want to manage that money in the best way possible. So far, what are our key away points? We all have got a chance to get money. This could be huge money or even small amounts of money. Now, that money that is in our hands, no matter how much, it must be managed well, and that is investment. So, being disciplined is important because we want to put that money to good usage. If you ask around, especially to those grown up, often you hear people saying, at one time I had money, but I don't know what went wrong. So, largely, the right decisions is what we want to make when we get money. Now, let's look at the importance of personal finance. What are some of the examples? Just like what we've mentioned, we've got money and we want to invest, we want to save that money, we want to budget it so that we put it to good use. Why is that important? Well, the first step of improving our finances is to take responsibility. I'm sure you noticed on the slide there. Learn to take responsibility for your finance. We don't want to be like most people who let things out or play out, however it comes, leaving a huge chunk of their financial well-being in the hands of other people. Because doing that is like we're setting sail on a boat, but we are not actively rowing the boat in the direction that we want. But at the same time, we want it to arrive at our destination. You agree with me that that is nearly impossible. If we are going to be financially responsible, it means we have to be liable for our future financial well-being, and that we endeavor to make good decisions in personal finance. We also want to avoid making financial mistakes. We are going to discuss more about financial mistakes later on. So, we need to strive to improve our financial literacy. Financial literacy is basically good knowledge of the principles and technological tools that are fundamental to being smart about money. Simply put, it involves learning how money works. So financial literacy empowers you. It improves your ability to handle the day-to-day financial matters. It can also help you to avoid the results of poor financial decisions that would take years to overcome. It can also help you to create informed and confident personal money decisions. But don't sweat over it. It's really quite easy if you are patient and willing to learn. So, what are some of the things that we can do to improve our financial literacy? The first one is to be business minded. So, it starts with what we feed our mind. If we make it a habit to listen to business news, economic issues, then we are putting our mind and focus where we are inclined to get the best of financial literacy. So, after being business minded, number two, we need to be an avid or a serious reader of business articles. There are a lot of magazines, a lot of books that feature finance, business reports, and things like that. One person I worked with said, I'm too busy to watch television, especially business news. But did you know that even a few moments reading business news, it can leave some good seeds in your mind. Number three, if we are to improve in financial literacy, we need to make wise use of the internet. Search for wise uses of money. Some people believe that simply because they can buy a cup of coffee and get the correct balance after payment, or buy a house, get a loan from a bank, use a credit card, then they know all they need to know about how to use money. That's wrong thinking, because even some of the wealthiest people in the world, they still go about reading the local newspapers and books that keep them informed. We need to do the same. Now, the fourth point on that same slide is developing healthy financial habits. You see, financial habits are the things that we are naturally predisposed to do, especially once we get money. If I were to ask you, the first thing that comes to your mind when you get money, what is it? Likely it came to your mind. So financial habits, those are the things that we are naturally predisposed to do, especially when we get money. It has been said that humans are creatures of habit, even when it comes to our money matters. And you agree with me that some habits can pave the way to wealth and success, but other habits can lead to financial wreck. And your goal now in your quest for financial success is to replace your unhealthy habits, which you may or may not be aware of, with healthy ones. Let's discuss 8 unhealthy financial habits. The first financial or in the first unhealthy financial habit is impulsive buying. Now, this is buying just because you have money, or buying because you have got a need. That's impulsive buying. Number 2, reaching the maximum limit on your credit card. That's unhealthy. Number 3, always spending more than you planned. In other words, overspending what we have. Number 4, buying on credit after running out of money. There are some banks which offer an overdraft. You have $100, but now you have spent the whole of that $100. Now the bank is saying, come, because we can give you 10% of what was in your bank account. That's an overdraft, and that's unhealthy. Number 5, using cash advance on a credit card to pay another. That's unhealthy. Number 6, paying your bills late. Remember, bills usually attract interest when they are not paid on time. And when you are charged interest, you have to pay for more. Number 7, always borrowing money from friends and colleagues. It's unhealthy, because when we have got that habit of borrowing money, in the event that we are failing to pay back, it can ruin our friendships or our relationships. And lastly, number 8, obtaining cash advance from employers. Remember, it's not free. You have to pay the money either. So engaging in acts like this will not end well, especially in the long run. Instead, what are better ways that money can be used? Now we're discussing 8 healthy financial habits. And the first one is always to follow a budget or a spending plan. Plan how to use money. Number 2, invest amount sufficient to fund a financially successful retirement or an investment. Number 3, calculate how much money you will need over a given period of time. For example, you know how much you need in a week, in a month, in a year. Then you can calculate now that in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, how much should I have? Number 4, set aside an emergency fund which is sufficient to live on for upward of 2 months and above. That emergency fund, it may not need to be a lot of money, even a small amount of money, but this is used in emergencies, maybe urgent health matters, which at times you may not have money, but now because we had set aside an emergency fund, now that can help you to go over that emergency. Number six, sorry, no, we're on number four now. Number five, reduce living expenses. Because we know our living expenses, it can be rentals, it can be food, it can be other expenses. We can reduce those ones and save the money aside. Number six, pay up bills in full each month. Do not shelve bills for the next month. We can say, no, this time I'm not paying rent. Let me pay half the rent when you have the money. And the next month you have to pay the full amount of rent plus the half of the past month. Usually it ruins our financial planning. Number seven, reduce personal debts, especially borrowing where it's not necessary. And number eight, acquire money generating assets, and these can repay at the right time. So there's a general thinking that being wealthy is determined by how much you earn or how much you inherit. In reality, it is much more closely related to your ability to understand how to make good decisions that generate wealth for you. So if you are able to master some simple financial habits and stick with them over a reasonable period of time, you will realize good results. In fact, you will be on track for financial independence, in which case you no longer have to work because you have to. And remember, personal finance is not rocket science. You can succeed very well in your personal finances by making appropriate plans and taking reasonable actions to execute those plans. So before we move to the next part, here is just a recap of what we've discussed so far. Take financial or take responsibility of your finances. Create good and healthy habits. Be business-minded by following business-related news. Now let's go to the next slide. I want to shift your attention now to the 5 areas of personal finance. I think you can see them. Income, spending, saving, investing, and protection. Let's discuss one at a time. The first one, income. Now, income is the starting point in personal finance. Income, in other words, that's the entire amount of cash inflow that you receive and can allocate to expenses. Income is all the money that you can bring in. We can talk about salaries, we can talk about wages, we can talk about dividends, we can talk about other sources of income. So the starting point, identify what brings money in your life. And we have to be realistic when we're talking about income. Next on the line is spending. Now, spending is an outflow of cash. And remember, we were talking about income, money that we are bringing in. Now, spending, that's an outflow of cash. Now, this is where the bulk of the income goes. Spending is whatever we use our income to buy. That may include paying for rentals, groceries, our food, eating out, home furnishings, travel, entertainment, the list goes on. So being able to manage spending is a critical aspect of personal finance. Now, we must make sure that our spending is less than our income. Otherwise, we won't have enough money to cover our expenses and we may fall into debt. The third one is saving. Saving, this is the income left over after spending or the money that we've set aside for emergencies. Simply put, this means not using all your income. That can be difficult. That's why we need financial discipline. And number four, investing or investment. Now, investing aims to increase our wealth beyond the amount that we invested. Remember, it comes with risk because it's not everything that we invest that can appreciate money, or in other words, it's not everything that we put uh, money to use that can return that amount of money or more. At times, we may incur a loss. And when it comes to investments, there we need professionals. There are professionals, investment managers, investing directors, or even investment companies that can help us with investment. The fifth one there is protection. Now, this refers to the methods that we use to protect our money. Now, remember, money can face unexpected events, and that may include illnesses, accidents. So when we protect money, we need to make sure that we are putting it where it's safe. And putting it doesn't necessarily mean that we have got cash. Even money in the bank, we need to protect it. Some can have insurances on the money that they have in the bank. So protecting money, we need to protect it. We've got something that we have planned maybe for the next 6 months, 1 year, and other things crop in between that we had not prepared. So we need to protect our money. Now, after discussing about these 5 areas of personal finance, the next slide now is going to talk about strategies. And if you notice, we've got 2 strategies: budgeting and keeping our debt to its place. Now, we need strategies because the sooner we start financial planning, the better. We must have good practices, especially when we have money. Now, talking about the first one, budgeting, we need to devise a budget. A budget is essential to living within your means and saving enough to meet your long-term goals. One of Zimbabwe's past finance ministers used to say, eat what you kill. Don't eat what you have in your vision. Eating what you kill means budgeting money that you have, planning to spend money that you have. Remember, a budget is a paper or electronic document that is used to record both planned and actual income and expenditures over a period of time. Now, your budget depicts the major means through which your financial plans are executed and your goals are accomplished. Budget is always important. On the other part, limiting or reducing debt, this is simple. Don't spend more than you can earn to keep debt from getting out of hand. But of course, most people have to borrow from time to time, and sometimes going into debt can be advantageous. Take as an example, you are taking debt to acquire an asset, taking out a mortgage to buy a house. It might be such a case. But at the same time, leasing such a property can be more economical than buying it outright. So the bottom line is we need to keep debt out of hand. Next slide, we're going to review what we've learned so far. Remember, we talked about personal finance, we've got money. How is it that we are planning to spend our money? Remember, we mentioned that we need to take responsibility of our personal finances. It takes a lot to get money, but once we set our eyes on money, just pause a bit before you spend that money. That's where budgeting comes in. That's where saving comes in. Investment, protect our money by all. So far, so good. Next slide, we're going to focus now on a very important aspect of personal finance: financial goals and strategies, planning and investments. Now, when you identify your financial values and goals, that sets the stage for financial success. Values and goals keep a balance between spending and saving, and that helps you to stay committed to your financial plans. Now, once you have set goals, you need to develop strategies that are necessary to achieve those goals. That's where financial planning comes in now. Talking about financial planning, this is the process whereby you develop and implement a coordinated series of financial plans to help you to achieve financial success. So by planning your money, planning your finances, you try to regulate your income and wealth to meet your financial goals. Now, what are the steps in financial planning, especially the process? Financial planning, the process. We're going to discuss about 5 of those steps. The first step in financial planning is evaluating our present financial condition. Now, this takes a serious and honest self-evaluation of your financial condition. Here are just some questions that you may ask yourself. What is my income? How much money do I get in a week, in a month? What makes part of my monthly income? It could be salaries, it could be interest, it could be other sources. Now, when you combine all the sources of money, all the sources of income, you now shift your focus. What are my expenses, monthly expenses? How much money do I need to spend on A, B, C, D? Now, you are planning because you've got income, you've got expenses, and you know how much you'll be left with. Point number 2, you need to set realistic financial goals. What's going on in your environment? What is the market trend? How is the economy, national economy performing? And ask yourself, what do I want to achieve in the long term? What can I do right now to set me on the right track? And we have to be very clear on each of those questions. Point number 3, develop a plan to reach your goal. Let's just give an example. Maybe you want to open a small business, a new business, new small business, for example, a grocery shop. Where is it going to be located? Because you want to reach that goal. You look for where you want to locate it. What are your target customers? Are you going to open a small business and maybe 1 or 2 people just pass by and buy? Where will you buy the stocks? Because where you buy the stocks, there are other costs that are involved. We can talk about transportation. We can talk about lighting. We can talk about licensing and so forth. As you plan to reach your goal, don't say my goal is to make money. To me, that's a bit vague. But if you say I'm going to pay off $1,000 of my debt this year, or say I'm setting aside money and I'm going to make $1,000 profit from this money this month, giving yourself a deadline. Because remember, goals are harder to achieve if they are not time bound. If you set time limits to your goals, it becomes easy for you to achieve them. Point number 4, put your plan into action. Remember, life is dynamic and your plans should be dynamic as well. Whenever you have a big chance in your life, it's a good time to revisit your plan and discuss any adjustments that might be needed. So on that point, suppose you have put your plan in action, maybe a plan for the next 6 months. So what you do is, after the first month, you can revisit what you have done in the 1 month. Now, how are my goals going? What do I need to improve? In the next month, you are working on what you may have failed to do in the initial month. You do the same on the 3rd month, You do the same in the subsequent months that come. Number 5, monitor your efforts to stay on track. And don't forget to learn from any changes that happen to your initial plans. If you notice the third bullet point on that slide, it says, are you a poor money manager? Many people are poor money managers. Do you agree? Many people say they do not budget. And according to research, it has been said that 4 out of 10 people, they say they are living beyond their means and rate themselves as fair or poor in managing money. Remember, to maintain a desired lifestyle, you don't have to spend every dollar that you earn or unplanned. Remember, your financial success is largely a matter of choice, not a matter of chance. So a good budget will help you to make good choices and avoid becoming like those most people. Earlier, we talked about a budget. Closely related to budgets are budget estimations. So a budget estimation is just a forecasted amount of money in a budget that you plan to receive or spend during a particular period of time. Let me give you an example. Say you estimate that your total gross income is $1,000. Now, after taxes, insurance, and other expenses, suppose your take-home pay or disposable income is $800. So that means your expenses are covering about $200. From 1,000, you remove $200 of expenses. Now, your disposable income or money that you take home is $800. So it means that $800, that's the fund or the funds that are available for spending. This is what we also call discretionary income. That is funds that are left over once the necessities of living are covered. So what do we need to do? Make time to make an honest self-examination. What makes up your costs, real costs? Remember, there are some costs that can be avoided or minimized. Things that you can do without, we can eliminate those. Let me give you an example. Suppose from where you are to go to work or coming back home, do you always have to drive to and from work or to and from school? Suppose a neighbor drives his or her own car to work or to school. How about carpooling? And by carpooling, we mean you are using one car because maybe you're going in the same direction, you finish or start at the same time, or you can make adjustments. That one finishes at 4, you finish at 4:15, he or she can wait. You share the fuel cost. Now you have minimized transport costs. Your colleague is saved as well. That's why I said you need a real check on yourself. You know your life or situation much better than anyone else. Let's talk about electronic money management. Now, this involves transactions that are conducted without the use of paper documents. Most of these involve electronic funds transfers or EFTs, whereby funds are moved electronically rather than by check or cash. It could be between your various accounts and between other people and businesses. Now, when you get involved with electronic banking services, most banks, most institutions, they tell you about your rights and responsibility or responsibilities in a written document, which is often referred to as a disclosure statement. Now, all users must be provided with written documents, written receipts, when we are using an ATM or a point of sale or a POS terminal. Why is that important? Because that can also aid you in planning, because they may tell you about the bank charges, they may tell you about other charges that are related to electronic money management or electronic money. So we need to be well aware of those uh, documents, or what is involved, what is included in a disclosure statement. I've noticed that some people fail to do that. But now, when you receive a bank statement, you are worried, where did my money go? Was either because of our spending, or we're not aware of what was made in the disclosure statement. So it's a very good aspect when it comes to personal finance. Now, the key points from this module, planning and investment. Remember, personal finance deals with the management of the monetary resources of an individual or family. It involves all plans to budget, to save, to invest, as well as to spend these resources over time, also while taking into consideration future life events and all the risks that may be involved in making these decisions. So the main points in planning and investments: take responsibility of your finances, strive to improve your financial literacy. Let's go to the next slide, slide number 8. I want to highlight this, especially if we have got students of finance joined on this webinar. When you are choosing a career in finance, well, we have done great. You will never go wrong. So it starts with good education. I see my friend is smiling. I'm not so sure why. So some have thought that, well, finance or accounting, that's one of the worst careers to choose. Well, basically, it starts with the education, the right foundation that you put forth. There are various opportunities out there once you set yourself on the right track. Just think about the following. When you study finance, you can be a finance manager, you can be an accountant, you can be an auditor. Finance is diversified. There's what we call corporate finance, which deals primarily with how corporations or companies address funding sources, capital restructuring, and investments. Then we have portfolio management, which involves building and overseeing a selection of assets, such as stocks, bonds, cash, for a long-term basis. You can also think of investment banking, which deals primarily in providing financial services for corporates and institutional customers. There are other things that we are not discussing here because of our time, and that includes asset management. We can also talk about public accounting. We can also talk about commercial banking. We can talk about financial planning. All these are careers. So a career in finance is the chosen profession of any of the ones that we have discussed and others that are not part of this list. So it usually depends on what colleges or universities in your country offer. But if you consult, you get the best of advice. Let's go to our slide number 9. Now we are going to look at frequently asked questions. What is personal finance? From this presentation, we've noticed that personal finance is the knowledge or instruments or techniques that are used to manage your finances. When you understand the principles and concepts behind personal finance, you can manage debt, you can manage your savings, you can manage living expenses, you can manage retirement savings. Number 5, what are the main or the 5 main components of personal finance? Like we've mentioned, the 5 main components of personal finance: that's income, spending, saving, investing, and protection. Number 3, what is an example, or what are examples of personal finance? Remember, one of the key ideas behind personal finance is not to spend more than you can make. For example, if you make $5,000 in a year, but you spend $6,000 in a year, you see what will happen in the long run? You end up with debt that continues to compound because you are spending more than you can make to pay for past expenses. And number four, why is personal finance so important? Remember, the concepts behind managing your personal finances can guide you in making intelligent financial decisions. In addition, the decisions that you make throughout your life on what to buy, what to sell, what to hold or own, it can affect how you live when you can no longer work. And that will be when you are retired. So I just chose those four questions because these are most of the questions that are asked by a majority of people. The next slide, that's the bottom line. So understanding how to manage your finances is an important life planning tool that can help to set you up for a life without debt. You can gain control of your financial stresses and have a way to manage the expensive surprises that life can throw at you. So you notice personal finance is a very good topic that can help you and me to have a very good future. Now, the next slide, those are questions. Now, that brings an end to my prepared presentation, but not the end of our discussion. Now it's time for all of us to get engaged, time for questions. I'll try to answer what I can, but what I can't answer, I'm sure the organizers will advise how best to bring the answers. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Witness. I request the participants to submit their doubts and questions maybe in the chat box, or they can just open the mic and ask the questions, and Mr. Witness will surely answer them accordingly. Well, so there's a question in the chat box. Can you please read it?
It just popped. It's no longer there. I can, if you can ask the question.
Well, there is a question in the chat box. So are you able to see, or should I read it?
I think you're all right. I saw the question. How should one approach saving for short-term versus long-term goals? So remember, we said saving, when you are saving, this is the income that is left over after spending money. So in other words, what you have got your short-term goals. Let's talk about short-term things. For example, airtime. I'm sure all of us, we need airtime. We use airtime. It's money that we use maybe to call, to join webinars like these ones. So you know that each and every month you attend 4 webinars, maybe different webinars, and on each webinar you have got, say, you need $1 or $2. So you know, for 4 webinars you need $8. Now this is short term because you know each and every month you are having a webinar that you have to attend. So setting aside that $8, that's for short term. But now you have got goals that would take you years to accomplish, like building a house. Of course, you can't save $1 a week or $1 a month if you are going to build a house, say, in the next 5 years. That's a longer term goal now, which you need to put or to stagger it. Say, building a house, we are planning on the next what do you call it, on the next 5 years. Now each and every month you need to save something. Say you are saving $100 each and every month up until your ultimate goal of building a house. So there's a difference between short-term goals and long-term goals. Usually it depends on how much you are going to save, how much you are going to save each and every month. I'm sure I managed to answer that.
Yeah, okay. Well, there are
All right.
more questions in the chat box.
All right. So let me try to get another question. All right. So the question is, now let me see. All right. How should one approach retirement planning, even if they are just starting their career? So remember, retirement planning is all about a strategy that you have for long-term saving, investment, and maybe finally withdrawing the money that you accumulate to achieve a financially comfortable retirement. So all you have to do is, suppose now I'm 40. I know that at 65, I am going to be retired. So I'm left with about, um, say, 15 years from now, I should be going in retirement. So I know that in the next 15 years, there are things that I must do. This is a must. I must do. I must have a house or two, so that in the event that I am retired, I can't go to work. Now, that house can give me back some money. Maybe I'm putting tenants in that house that will be paying me monthly rentals. So even when you are still starting a career, you can still plan about your retirement. You can still plan about what will be bringing money after your retirement. Remember, you can also go on an early retirement, which is good. In early retirement, say I want to go on retirement at 50. Now I know I'm left with 7 years. Now I can start planning now for an early retirement, because in the next few years, I'm preparing my life. I know what I want to achieve. It goes back to planning. I'm planning what I want to achieve. So even when you are still starting your career, it's always good to plan. Let me look at another question. What key indicators? What are the key indicators of a sound investment? That's a very good question. So let me tell you about three or four. The first one is cash flow. You know that this is a good investment when it is bringing money to your organization or to yourself. So you can see the cash flow, how much cash is coming in back. We have invested $100. How much is coming daily? How much is coming weekly? How much cash is coming fortnightly? How much cash is coming monthly? Even when you've got a business, so you started your business 5 years ago, how much money was coming each and every year? Then the other one is return on assets. This is another, um, what do you call it? Another profitability ratio. Remember, you are on return on assets. We are actually talking about how much money is coming from the assets that we have put forth. Remember, money is an asset. So how much money is coming back? If you uh, bought a car and you are using it for, what do you call it? You are using your car for rides, maybe as a taxi. How much money is coming back on that asset? So return on assets, that's a good indicator of a sound investment. We can also talk about investment duration. Now, investment duration, this is investment performance. You have invested your money, and now how is it performing on the market? So you have put $100 on the market. How much longer do you need to return back that $100? And obviously, the other one is the net present value. Net present value, usually we use it as a financial metric that seeks to capture the total value of an investment opportunity. So it's another good way to show that you invested properly. Of course, there are other key indicators like yields, internal rate of returns, employment data, and things like that. So there are a lot of things that can really show you where you are going and where you are coming from. Good, thank you. I'm sure I tried to answer that.
If there are no other questions regarding the personal finance, then we can move on for the closing ceremony. And yeah, so thank you so much, witness, for coming and having a wonderful session. It was very enlightening. Well, I probably needed very much knowledge about personal finance because I'm very weak in maths and accounts probably. Yeah, I'm
All right.
speaking the truth actually. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. And I
No,
would like
thank
to thank
you.
you. Yeah, I would like to thank you, Dinesh sir, the CEO of this company, Simran ma'am, Pradipta sir, and other responsible members, whoever had come, joined, and made the session very much engaging and professional. So, Ado connects you with established professionals and offers a platform to each one of them to learn from their journeys and experiences. So, if anyone is interested, you can visit the website and see more info about it. And you can see the chat box where we have provided the feedback link. You can give your feedbacks and yeah, you can leave your respected rooms or leave them with you. Thank you so much for coming. It was a
Thank
pleasure having
you.
you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you.
much, sir.
Uh,